Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pride Month 2026. And today we are going to talk more about why we are allowed to feel pride and what that means in just a little snippy shot of what it might mean to us today. So thank you for joining me again on the Gay with God podcast. I am Midge Noble, your host, and I'm also the author of Gay with God, Reclaiming My Faith, Honoring My Story. If you want a signed copy of the memoir, you can get it at my website, gaywithgod.com, or you can find it wherever you choose to buy your books. So today I thought it would be fun to look at the word pride and then talk about what we may embody as people of the LGBTQIA plus community. And even though we were taught in church that being prideful, having pride, is a sin, I would commend to us today that feeling a sense of pride because we come from a rich, sacred tradition of creation. And I'm going to break that down a little bit for you with the words and a little bit of history, but not very much. And I just want us to have fun with this today. I looked at the word pride, and of course, I decided to come up with words that would go with each of the letters of the word pride that really is something that I think we all embody or we can work toward embodying as we live authentically with the God of our understanding who created us. So when I look at the letter P, the first thing that comes to mind for me is perseverance. The second word I thought of, which is actually two words, but it was profound purpose. So we do have a profound purpose, I believe, and it's only through our perseverance over many, many, many years that we have been attacked, killed, discriminated against, kicked out of churches, being called all sorts of names, losing friends, losing family. That's a lot to put on a person. And we all, in some form or fashion, have gone through all of those things at some level. And even though we may still be above ground and still breathing and no one has killed maybe you or me, but there's a part of us that dies every single day when we have to fight again, when we get knocked back down. It doesn't mean because we persevere, it doesn't mean that we quit. That's the whole point, that we have the right to feel proud and to feel pride in our ability to live in a world that really hates us. Not everybody hates us, we know that. But in the big global statement of how things are going in our society right now, we are not the cream of the crop to most of the people. We do have people who love us. We do have people who are fighting for us. We do have now churches that are open and affirming, and we as gay people can be bishops, we can be pastors, we can be male or female or transgender. We have the right to live our lives authentically, and yet we still have to persevere because those rights can be taken away very quickly. People are being killed every day in our society because of who they love and who they are authentically. So that first letter really starts us off with a mission. The God of our understanding did not create us to persecute us. I firmly believe that the God of my understanding created me, to open the eyes of people who can't see. It started with my family, where I had to come out to them, and it did not go well in the beginning. And Yet, because I persevered and I continued to live authentically, and I really believed that this is who I was, although it took me, as you know, 30 years to figure it out because I'm a slow roller. But, once I figured it out, it was like no one's going to take my truth away from me. And no one's going to dare to say that there's something wrong with me. Because if there was something wrong with me, I would have fixed it years ago. I would have found a way to get all that out of my system and not be worrying about it. But I couldn't get it out of my system because it was who I am created to be. And I know that. So persevering in my family to continue to be who I was and risk the rejection of all of them and to go by myself somewhere else and not see them again was on the table for a while. And yet, I think that for whatever reason, I am loved enough by my family, even though many of them still disagree with me, but my inner core group of family members had my back. Not at first, but we worked into it and we worked through it so that we could get to the other side. And now, the last time that I went to see my 91-year-old mama, she couldn't remember my name, but she remembered my wife's name and said, "Tell Sue I'm sorry that she couldn't come." Like, that's some kind of a twist I wasn't expecting. So we've come a long way, and part of that was my perseverance, but I also think that, when I look back, my family was on that journey too. They had to persevere through their religious teachings, through societal pressure, and, my mom made the decision after a while that she chose me. It took my dad a lot longer, and it wasn't until he was pretty much dying that he made a statement that when we had our next family reunion that I would be re-invited to the reunions. I was uninvited because I wouldn't not tell my truth. When people ask me, "Well, are you married?" And I'm going, "Yeah, I'm married." This girl, I wasn't allowed to do that. And because I would not promise that I wouldn't answer the question that way, I was uninvited to the reunions. So as he was dying and he wanted one more reunion to get everybody together, he made the statement that you are going to come to this reunion and you can bring your family. He wouldn't say what kind of, but my family, which would have included my wife. So we never got to have the reunion because he got really, really sick and we couldn't do it. However, there was that one statement which he never really, cleared it up before then, but he somehow had resigned himself to the fact that this is who I was going to be. I don't know if he ever spiritually got to the place where he didn't think I was going to hell for this, and he never wanted me to speak about it openly. We had many rows at the house where he was quite ugly and made big scenes. If I even reached over and touched my wife, to make a point, and you touch somebody when you're talking about them, well, those were bad times. But we persevered, and I still have my core family members intact. My extended family, there are some that are open and affirming and loving to me and believe that I have a right to be who I am, spiritually and just, as far as how I was created. But there are many family members that I absolutely have no contact with, and they are bigots are us, and they just don't get it. But we persevered. So you have a lot to be proud of. If you've came out early in life, if you knew for a very long time, all the persecutions that you've been through, all of the sad and demeaning things that you are exposed to during family traditional get-togethers or whatever, you have persevered, and that's something to be proud of. And I think that all gay people have a right to feel pride in the journey that they've taken and how we've been able to continue to keep our lives moving forward and do the jobs that we're created to do and expand love and kindness and ethics into the world, because that's who we are as people. The next word is R. And of course, the first thing I thought of was rainbow. And I know that our dear super supporter of this podcast, loves rainbows and loves everything rainbows. And so there you go, Tracy. Rainbow for you. Back in 1978 is when the first pride flag was put together. And at that point, they had 8 colors. They had hot pink for sexuality, red for life, orange for healing, yellow for sunlight, green for nature, turquoise for magic and art, indigo for serenity, violet for spirit. Well, that was a lot of colors, and they ran out of some of the ability to get dyes for all of those colors as they were continuing to make the flags. And so then they stopped all of the colors. They took out the turquoise and the indigo and the violet. They just turned to blue. And then as we continue to progress and move forward and we get a better understanding of who we are, they added the light blue, pink, and white to give visibility to our transgender and non-binary community members. And then they added the black and the brown for the people of color who are in our community. And that flag is called the Progress flag because the arrow is pointing toward moving forward. So if you've seen those colors, the white, the pink and the blue, and the brown and black in a point going toward the other colors because we're continuing to grow and evolve. There's a lot of discussion and bitterness that our community went from the upside down pink triangle to identify what we went through in Germany and how that was the symbol that was put on clothing of gay people that were sent to the gas chambers. That was a very tragic symbol that was very painful. And so in 1978, Harvey Milk, who was an openly gay city supervisor, commissioned Gilbert Baker to make a flag that would be a symbol of something positive that could have visibility and give the LGBTQ plus community pride. And so the pride flag was then created. And since then, we do fly it with such pride, and it is a symbol of emerging and going forward and being able to be exactly who we continue to be created to be, because we're never stationary. We're always growing, we're always learning, we're always moving forward. And even with all the setbacks that we've gone through, we've also made a lot of progress with being out and open and getting more and more acceptance. Of course, the religious community is mad that the pride flag did have the rainbow colors because they think that in the writing of Genesis and the flood and the earth being covered and then the rainbow being the symbol of God's grace and moving forward. However, that rainbow, what they didn't understand, stood for all of us, not just the Christians. It was a promise to everybody that the flood would not happen again as punishment. And so we are covered by that rainbow, and it's absolutely okay that Gilbert Baker used the rainbow colors that we know today as the original flag and now the Progress Pride flag, because we should have always been included. So there. When we look at pride and I look at the I, the first thing that I thought of was I am. Now, in the Bible, when God is asked, who are we supposed to say that you are? And God responded, I am that I am. And those are creation words. Those are very powerful words. And so when I thought about that in connection to the word pride, I'm not trying to say that we are God's, but I know that we all have a piece of God in us. The breath of life from God, from the beginning of time into the human, was a piece of divinity. And I believe that we are all created to be who we are created to be. And the same breath that went into the first original human, it all travels throughout all of us. And every one of us are created to have the color of hair that we get, the form of our body, our intellects, our creativity, our artistic abilities, and our sexuality. We are all different. Even in the heterosexual community, you have some people who enjoy sex, some people have no interest in sex. You have across the board, we all have our own identities, what we're comfortable with, who we lean toward, because sexuality is on a spectrum. So when I say I am, we can be assured that in the pride that we may feel in how we were created to be who we are, it was solidified at creation. We didn't become gay. We didn't just happen to choose to be gay. We are created to be who we are. And that is something that we can feel pride about. The word D for me is dancing. Now, I am not a great dancer, but I love a great beat, and I will bounce to a beat whether it looks dorky or not, because I just love movement and I like to do it. So anyway, dancing for me, eclectic and joyful and energetic, and I want us to feel that. Even in the times that we're living in now, I want us to dance. I want us to feel good. I want us to be able to rise above all of the negativity and be in our little dancing bubble inside of our head or on the top of our head or wherever you want to be. Dancing is just a way to release every pent-up, blocked energy that we have. So whether you do it in public or you do it in the privacy of your home, or you don't even share it with your wife or husband, get out there and dance. Be happy that we have persevered, that we have colors to represent all of the wonderful parts of us moving forward, and that we have been created to be who we are. So dancing is the perfect way to continue that energy in a positive way. And don't be ashamed, because movement doesn't have to be perfection. And that's why I love that you do have the perfection of ballet, but you then have jazz and tap, and you have the African dancing that is very, very awesome, and Native American dancing. It's just beautiful because they just allow their bodies to go and to not be tethered to anything stringent or too perfect. So it's okay to be a dancer that has specific movement and it does look like perfection. However, on the spectrum of moving through all of those movements, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just move and enjoy just the expression that you feel on the inside just pouring out. And when you have all that dancing, the E for me is effervescence. So that's that bubbling, fizzy, enthusiastic kind of energy. And I think that's perfect, that we would just continue to fill ourselves up with effervescent energy that bubbles and shoots out, and that we continue the progress that we've been making all these many years, from the time that we were born, through all of the years, through all of the trials, tribulations, and wins. We've had a lot of wins, and we are not done, because we're all not always accepted everywhere. And we may never be accepted everywhere. However, we are profoundly purposeful, and we persevere. And until, for me, and you guys set the bar where you want, but for me, I will not rest until we have our rights solidified in whatever law you have to do or whatever non-breakable contract we need to make, but that at some point in our life, we will never, ever have to hold our breath while a judge debates or a Supreme Court debates whether or not we can stay married, whether or not somebody can just kill us because we're gay, where somebody will not get fired for coming out at work, that we will have equity and equality in our life forever, instead of always having to have it taken away and restored and taken away and maybe keeping it took away. I believe in the perseverance of what we've been through. I believe in us. I believe in the joyful, loving, dancing, effervescent souls that the LGBTQIA plus community is. We have never quit. We have never turned back. We have never stopped fighting. We are a community that includes all races, all identities, and we deserve to know that we are sacred and we have a right to be here, and we are going to continue to move forward until we are all free. And not just in our community, for all civil rights issues, for all land issues, for all the issues that our entire community and other marginalized people that are with us on this earth, we all deserve to be seen, heard, and protected. And I believe that day will come again. President Obama set the bar really high and protected us really well. And we will again vote in a president who sees all of us and who is not afraid to allow all of us to have the spouse we want, the religion we want, and the job we want, no matter what color is your skin, what gender are you, or who you love. We deserve to live our life being the person we were created to be. Thank you, everybody, for sharing this time with me. Happy Pride. We're not done yet. Keep celebrating. I appreciate all of you for listening and sharing and supporting this podcast. Also, if you want to meet me on a different level and you want to connect with me on socials, or if you want to have a private confidential appointment with me to talk about what issues you may be having, go to the Gay with God show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com, and you can find links to connect with me, to buy the book, and to set up that confidential coaching session if you'd like one. Check out our Facebook group, Gay with God, where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. We talk about struggles we're having in the world today. We talk about fun things, sad things, frustrating things, and sometimes we'll have a specific topic. But join us and add your voice to the conversation. That's on Facebook, Gay with God. Make sure you answer all of the questions so that I can invite you inside. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, or you might not even be sure you're gay at this point, but God has always been within you, even when you didn't know it. You have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.